Chapter 7. Self-Reliance. All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy, but all play and no work makes him something greatly worse. Samuel Smiles. God bless the child who's got his own. Billie Holiday. What we, the colored people, want is character, and this nobody can give us. It is something we must earn for ourselves. Frederick Douglass. Heaven helps those who help themselves is a well-tried maxim embodying in a small compass the results of vast human experiences. Biographies of black men and women of achievement are the most instructive and useful incentives to others. Some of the best are almost equivalent to gospels, teaching high ambition, right thinking, and energetic action to further their aims. These valuable examples exemplify the power of integrity, self-help, individual initiative, and patient purpose. Great men and women of science, literature, and the arts have belonged to no exclusive class or social rank. Some of the Master's greatest apostles came from the ranks. The impoverished have sometimes risen to the highest stations, and the most indigent proved insurmountable obstacles no great task. Take, for instance, Frederick Douglass, the esteemed orator and ex-slave, who said, "Our destiny is largely in our own hands. If we find, we shall have to seek. If we succeed in the race for life, it must be by our own energies and our own exertions. Others may clear the road, but we must go forward or be left behind in the race for life. If we remain poor and dependent, the wealth of others will not avail us. If we are ignorant, the intelligence of others will do little for us. If we are foolish, the wisdom of others will not guide us. If we are wasteful of our time and money, the economy of others will only make our destitution the more disgraceful." Also from humble ranks sprang Marcus Garvey, the 20th century black Moses, who suggested, "There is no force like success, and that is why the individual makes all efforts to surround himself throughout life with the evidence of it. As of the individual, so should it be of the race. The glittering success of Rockefeller makes him a power to the American nation. The success of Henry Ford suggests him as an object of universal respect. The black man must be up and doing if he will break down the prejudice of the rest of the world. We must strike out for ourselves in the course of material achievement, and by our own effort and energy present to the world those forces by which the progress of man is judged." In both these cases, strenuous individual application was the price paid for distinction. This lesson will single out those who will embark on this same great adventure in the arena of self-reliance. Who among you is not afraid to stand alone? Who is bold, original, and resourceful? Who is ready to strike out for his own independence? Who is one of the audacious few who possess the fortitude to venture where others have never been, to do what others have never done, in order to live life as others rarely will, by leaving his mark on the times through the power of self-reliance? 9 out of 10 men past midlife, if asked why they are only barely earning a living, will tell you that they never had a chance, that they were kept back, and that circumstances were against them. Chances are they would say that opportunities eluded their grasp, or that they didn't have access to the proper schooling. Today, millions of young blacks who are searching for a start in life seem to think they have very little to do with good opportunities except to discover them. But no matter where you go, no matter what your background or educational level, your best opportunity always lies within yourself. The grandest fortunes ever accumulated on earth were and remain the fruit of endeavor that had no capital to begin with, save energy, intellect, and will. From L. Douglas Wilder, governor of Virginia, to John Johnson of Johnson Publishing, the story is the same, not only in the securing of wealth, but also in the seizing of greatness. Those men and women who have won most rely mostly upon themselves. The habit of depending on self, the determination to find one's resources within oneself, develops strength. Crutches were intended for the physically disabled, not the able-bodied. Whoever attempts to go through life on mental crutches will not go far, nor will he be successful. President of your own company. Within the pages of the previous lesson, you learned of the hidden capacity for achievement lodged within yourself. It is mandatory that you discover your personal worth, not just from a physical point of view, but as a person right now on the market in today's society. Having ascertained your present worth, ask yourself, what do you intend to be worth next year, 3 years from now, or even 5 years from now? In the final analysis, every person is in business for himself. That is, he is building his own life regardless of who signs his paycheck. Within a free and open society, all of us are entrepreneurs. Each of us, individually, is the president of his or her own corporation. As you assume this office, you and you alone are solely responsible for your firm's success or failure. You and the members of your family are stockholders in your corporation, and it is your responsibility to see that the value of your stock increases in the years ahead. Your family has displayed faith in you, and it is your responsibility to prove that their faith is justified. While the operations of a corporation are multitudinous and complex, they can be reduced to 4 basic functions: finance, production, sales, research. Without proper financing, there will be no production. Without production, your company would have nothing to sell. Without sales, your corporation would have to completely stop production. And without research, your firm could not hope to stay abreast of or ahead of our rapidly changing times. It's like any one of these 4 vital functions, and you have a crippled company, much like our individual braced on mental crutches. And if you slight one factor long enough, you'll commit corporate suicide. For the purpose of conserving time, we will discuss the subject of finance and money in a subsequent lesson. For now, let's concentrate on research, production, and sales, the head, hands, and legs of your company. How many once large companies and trade names can you think of that were once giants and have since disappeared entirely from the corporate landscape? Names that were once world leaders in their fields and are now only memories. Think of this for a moment. Why did they go out of business? Simple. They failed to keep in balance these 4 crucial functions. When I mention crucial functions, I speak of the intangible and non-financial assets your company has to have in order to become profitable and successful. What about research for your personal corporation? Research can be said to exist in 2 areas, present and future. That is, the research of your company should be devoted to the ways and means of improving its present products or services, present production, and present sales. Future research is concerned with the ways and means of developing new products and services, new methods of production, and new methods of marketing. Are you looking for new and improved ways to enhance you? Are you presently researching the many areas in which your personal development can be effectively increased? Many people dream of starting their own business without ever realizing they're in business for themselves right now. Life moves forward. It is an interesting conversation. An 18-year-old girl was talking with a learned old man. He had inquired about the direction of her life, particularly what line of training or career she would pursue. She said, "Well, you know, sir, I would like to become a psychologist, but it requires so much training that I'm afraid I would be too old when I finished." The wise man sat in silence for a few moments, smiled, and then asked, "Young lady, how long would it take you to become a psychologist?" "About 7 years," she replied. "How old would you be then?" was the next question. "I will be 25. Then the man asked, "How old will you be in 7 years if you don't become a psychologist?" Of course, her answer was the same. "Well, I guess I would be about 25. Time waits for no one. How many people have cheated themselves, thereby selling their company short, because they relinquished their desires or forfeited their dreams? Remember, your future is exactly what you make of it. 5 years from today, you will be 5 years older. The question to ask is, will you be 5 years wiser? Abraham Lincoln said, "I am a slow walker, but I never look backwards." I suggest that you never look backward. Life is a forward impulse, and the past is gone. You can live only in the here and now. But there are compulsive people who insist on looking backward. Rigid, attempting to stay in boundaries as though wearing blinders, they look to a past that cannot be relived or experienced again. They fail to understand that at best, all they can do is react emotionally to the past. The past can never be resurrected. Yesterday is gone. Never look back. When Orpheus looked back, he lost his beloved Eurydice and eventually his life. Lot's wife looked back and turned into a pillar of salt. The point of these tales is that life is growth. Life always moves on. If you are living in the past, life will still move on, but it will move on without you. Living in the past means clinging to non-productive attitudes and remaining in situations that hinder your personal growth and development. St. Ignatius wrote in the 1st century, "He who is not getting better is getting worse." Like most words of wisdom, these words are just as applicable now as they were when they were first stated. The world is large, with much to learn and a lot to experience. If you are living in the past, you are preventing yourself, your company, from participating actively and fully in life. Select an area of interest. One sure way to enhance the chances of your company's success, and in turn your own success, is to become a specialist in a particular field of knowledge or skill. Every day, new knowledge is made available to you. This means that the sheer volume of information will make it increasingly difficult for any one individual to possess all the facts in any one particular field. Therefore, one way to improve your company is to become more skilled, better trained, and better educated. Choose an area of interest that is of extreme importance to you. Research it from every possible angle. Our public libraries are free and open for all who wish to use this immense resource. Study trade journals, read all available materials, meet with experts and recognize leaders in the field, and in general make yourself a valuable storehouse of information. Make others aware of your activities and what you can offer. What you are really doing when you undertake such a project is making your organization, yourself, more effective. Your corporation has two factors to consider: the present and the future. How successful you are in meeting these challenges will determine your present profits, what you earn, and future growth, what you will earn in the years to come. Change is normal. The one constant thing in life is change. Change is everywhere, in your environment, in your emotions, in your beliefs, and in the way you think. How you generate change, what you do with change, and how you react to it determine whether you grow or stagnate. In spite of the concept that change is constant, there is nevertheless a strong tendency to resist it. Why? Because it presents an unknown factor in our lives. Though each of us may have problems, we are often tempted to maintain the status quo rather than venture into the unknown. By sailing in supposedly safer waters, we isolate ourselves as much as possible from the impact of change, trying to live with problems rather than solving them. Consequently, we become experts in negative, limited thinking, almost immunizing ourselves from any possible success. To participate in change is to grow. Nothing grows that does not change. The tiny seed becomes a tall blade of grass. The bud becomes a flower. The egg hatches into a bird, and the child becomes an adult. The very act of life is to experience change and growth. To earn more, you must first learn more. Those who accept and adjust to change keep growing and learning. Those who cannot accommodate change do not grow. They stagnate by the wayside, a mental, physical, or spiritual death. Why are all companies concerned with growth, even in a period of prosperity? It's because of the law that operates with companies as well as human beings. The law simply states, nothing in the world stands still. Nothing in the universe stands still. A law of physics confirms that a body in motion tends to remain in motion until acted upon by an outside force. A company that is growing has a tendency to continue to grow. In other words, it is doing things right. Conversely, a company that is shrinking has a tendency to shrink until acted upon by an outside force. That is, it will shrink until it or the individual takes the additional information, personal development, or improves production and increases sales. All responsible company officials know that unless a company is growing, it is developing the first signs of stagnation or going out of business. As the head of your personal corporation, you should realize this law applies to you as well. We are living in an age of discovery. A day rarely goes by when the media do not report the discovery of some new technological innovation or advance. The pace of scientific discovery seems almost unbelievable. The automation of production, computerization of information, supersonic transportation, communication by satellite, exploration of space, new uses for nuclear energy, all developments of the last 25 years are only the beginning. It has been estimated by scientists and scholars alike that man's total body of knowledge doubled between 1775 and 1900, a period of 125 years. It doubled again between 1900 and 1950, a period of only 50 years, and again between 1950 and 1958, and it is now thought to be doubling every 5 years. This is a tribute to man's curiosity and relentless movement forward. Now each of us, as president of our own corporation, can decide what to do with our lives. We can either grow and move forward or go backward. We cannot stand still, even if that was desirable. These ideas will give you an opportunity to stand back and view yourself and your future objectively, just as an intelligent bystander might. Ask yourself, how much am I worth right now as a corporation? If you were an outside investor, would you invest in you as a corporation? The market doesn't pay for efforts, it pays for results. You must produce. What about productivity? A company growing at the rate of 10% a year will double in size in about 8 years. What attention are you giving to the production of your personal corporation? Can you grow and improve as a person at least 10% per year? Of course you can. Think and Grow Rich, A Black Choice, is filled with countless stories of men and women who have exceeded their previous performance to an almost unbelievable degree. Achievers in all walks of life have multiplied their personal effectiveness, increased productivity many times over. We are constantly reminded of the energy being wasted, both by corporations in general and ourselves in particular. Giving an all-out effort doesn't seem to be as popular today as it was in the past. This might explain why so few individuals rise above the ranks, and why this author believes it is so much easier to succeed today. No matter what the field, most people find it easier to stay within the warmth of the huddled masses rather than risk failure. They submerge themselves in mediocrity, ultimately suffocating at the hands of conformity. As corporate presidents, some with brilliant minds and all capable of fulfilling a specific purpose in life, they refuse to go all out, forcing their companies to teeter on the verge of liquidation. But this habit can easily be overcome. Give and it shall be given to you. This simple statement grants you the ability to advance you, your biggest asset, by giving to others of your positive attitude, your loyalty, your commitment, your faith, your winning example, and the will to win. By giving your talents and energies to others, you will enhance this product called you. This is probably the greatest deed you could ever perform. If it is true that life will defeat the person who lives only for himself and his own personal satisfaction, then it is equally true that the same individual will receive strength, love, happiness, and success by giving of himself or herself. As Andrew Carnegie said to a young and highly inquisitive Napoleon Hill when pressed for the single key to achievement, the greatest service that one can render to God is by helping others. Nature employs this law in behalf of the tillers of the soil. The farmer carefully prepares the ground, then sows the seed and waits while the law of increasing returns bring back the seed he has sown, plus a many-fold increase. I am stressing the importance of this function of production as a means of enabling you as a corporation to promote yourself to an even higher station in life. Compliance with this feature will render a twofold reward. First, it will offer a greater material gain than that currently enjoyed by those who do not observe it. Second, it will produce the rewards of happiness and satisfaction, which will come only to those who render such service. You will be trusted with even greater responsibilities as your level of production and service increase. This is the rule. So how's your production? Is there a way in which it can be improved? Are there ways to enhance output? These are all questions that must be answered by you, the president of your corporation. Don't forget sales. And finally, what about sales? How can they be improved? Sales encompass more than just selling a product or service. This is the manner in which you sell yourself to everyone with whom you come in contact. It is a way to get along with your spouse, your children, your neighbors. We are living in an age of cooperative effort. For centuries, the pyramid structure was the way we organized and managed ourselves. Information, communications, and power, stimulating the second law of thermodynamics, move one way, from the top of the pyramid down to the bottom. However, over the years, this too has changed. Nearly all successful companies are becoming more self-reliant. The pyramid has given way to networking, people talking to each other at all different levels and in different directions, sharing ideas, information, and resources. Networking exists to foster self-help, to exchange information, to change society, to improve productivity and work life, and to share resources. The important component is not the network, the finished product, but the process of getting there, making contacts. Within our personal universe, demographers have estimated that each of us know nearly 270 other individuals, some more personally than others. This indeed may be the pathway to lead to even greater self-reliance and to the attainment of your goals. The most important sale. How's your level of salesmanship? How are you marketing your most important product, you? Regardless of who you are or what your chief aim is, your success will depend on your ability to sell yourself to others. Selling is nothing more than a personal persuasion of ideas and thoughts. You need not go back into history to realize how fundamentally necessary salesmanship is for any successful venture. People will be persuaded more by the depth of your conviction than by the height of your logic, more by your enthusiasm and more by your belief than by any proof. Or, as the master salesman Percy Whiting wrote, selling to be a great art must involve a genuine interest in the other person's needs. Otherwise, it is only a subtle, civilized way of pointing a gun and forcing one into a temporary surrender. Self-reliance through selling. In the modern world of business and commerce, the ability to generate sales is the indispensable prerequisite for success of all competitive enterprises. It is the effectiveness of the salesperson that determines whether companies, industries, and even countries decline or prosper. Regardless of your occupation or profession, you must be a master salesman. Salesmanship is the key to the attainment of whatever you desire from life, as long as your goals do not violate God or the rights of your fellow men and women. This applies not only to those who sell professionally, but to housewives, students, and anyone who may desire to reap his share of life's blessings. The major advances in all fields, science, education, industry, technology, religion, have been made, for the most part, by men and women who possess and utilize the power of persuasion. Numerous variables enter into the development program of the successful salesman. Most of these are personal in nature, having a greater bearing on the salesman himself than on the product or services he offers, or the organization he represents. By reading the preceding pages and carefully applying their contents, you have already taken a first step toward becoming a master salesman. In addition to the valuable information in the foregoing chapters, there are essential qualities that you must possess if you seriously intend to become a successful person. The qualities are persistence, planning, common sense, and showmanship. Pay close attention to the examples that follow and observe how these particular traits were used. If you are ready to take the first step to a more productive life, perhaps you will profit from the sales strategies of America's top black salesmen. Persistence. The word salesmanship goes a long way towards explaining Earl Graves. In high school in Brooklyn's Bedford-Stuyvesant section, Graves sold his relentless energy by working 3 jobs at once. At Morgan State, he paid his way through college by working as a swim instructor and dorm counselor. He even ran track for his meal ticket. Graves majored in economics and by his junior year launched a business from his dorm room, landscaping. He had a friend type a flyer that promised experienced lawn service at reasonable rates, and he stuffed every mailbox in sight. Anticipating only a modest response, he was totally unprepared for what he got. More than 40 homeowners signed up the first week. Graves graduated from college and entered the Army in 1958. Here he developed and sharpened his sales skills. Though he made first lieutenant ahead of schedule, the military was clearly not a career. Graves had other things on his mind. When he completed his tour, he went back to New York and tried his hand in real estate. In his first 3 months, he sold 9 houses, enough to pay for a wedding and furnish a modest apartment. In 1965, Graves went to work for the Justice Department, a job that was to eventually lead to his working for Robert Kennedy, then a New York senator. Working for Kennedy introduced Graves to a world he had never seen, a world where power was a natural heritage, where the word can't did not exist, and where everybody practiced salesmanship. Working for the senator played an enormous part in my personal development, said Graves. Robert Kennedy was a man who was totally unfamiliar with failure. Graves recalled an incident where he was asked by the senator to contact then Secretary of the Interior, Morris Udall. At the time, Udall was vacationing in Colorado, rafting down one of his more popular rivers. After several unsuccessful attempts to contact the secretary, Graves informed Kennedy that he was unable to reach Udall. To this, the senator crisply responded, "Graves, that raft is not going down that river all day. It's going to stop somewhere, and when it does, I want Udall standing there with a phone in his hand." Those words still penetrate Graves' psyche today. That story is a part of my personal philosophy. You would be surprised how many people quit when faced with obstacles. And as every good salesman knows, everything must not be possible today, but sooner or later it is possible. For nearly 20 years, Earl Graves would apply this maxim as he and a cadre of loyal employees strove to keep Black Enterprise magazine at the forefront of the business monthly circulation chart. Planning. When the annals of Black business history are written, Henry Parks and the Parks Sausage Company will be listed as a major contributor. Starting with every nickel he could scrape together and with his most important asset, a knack for planning, Parks was one of the first Black businessmen to sell his products to the general market and convince the white banking establishment to invest in minority enterprises. In 1951, he did just that and achieved what few Black entrepreneurs managed to do: expand his company beyond the confines of the Black consumer dollar and carve a niche within the general market. Since the Baltimore-based manufacturing company began grinding out sausage in a small converted dairy, 1990 sales have grown to nearly 30 million. Parks had begun his career with a blast of confidence, graduating with honors from Ohio State University. He was hired as a salesman by the Pabst Brewing Company after showing the firm a plan to market more beer among Blacks. Parks' sales strategy was to reach the general market through ethnic consumers, a tactic that is practiced by Fortune 500 companies today. He succeeded beyond their wildest expectations. By placing salesmen in supermarket parking lots and pitching Pabst to every Black cook, chauffeur, and domestic who came to shop for their white employers, Park infiltrated both Black and white markets. To dislodge Budweiser as the exclusive supplier to America's railroads, he befriended dining car waiters and Pullman porters, convincing them to stock Pabst on train, in nightclubs, hotels, and union halls. In 1951, Parks threw his sales skills into high gear and launched Parks Sausage, but soon ran out of money. He saw that his survival in food retailing would depend on his going beyond the minority market, so he bore straight ahead into promotion. He staged cooking demonstrations and used taste tests in supermarkets, the first of their type. Though cash was tight, Parks kept quality high and poured thousands of dollars into advertising with ads like, "More Park sausage, Mom." In a few short months, trucks were seen rolling into some of the largest grocery chains on the East Coast, stocking the shelves in white-owned food stores. Every market has a key, Parks claimed, and if you turn that key, you'll undoubtedly capture that market. I proved that with proper planning, you can sell to anybody. Common sense. It would seem that a man who has amassed enough wealth to be ranked among the richest men in America, a personal net worth of more than $150 million, would know a bit about selling. How did he do it? By using common sense to pry open markets. In 1942, John H. Johnson borrowed $500 from a small loan company on the security of his mother's furniture and used it to start Negro Digest, a black version of Reader's Digest. The magazine started slowly due to the reluctance of local distributors who refused to stock his journal. To solve this problem, Johnson called on friends and relatives who canvassed Chicago, buying up the entire press run of the magazine. Ecstatic distributors who were unaware of Johnson's tactics clamored for more copies. In one issue, circulation jumped from 50,000 to 150 copies. 50,000 to 150,000 copies, and Negro Digest soared. 3 years later, Johnson got more ambitious and launched Ebony, a clone of Life magazine for blacks. In 1973, Johnson used the same strategy to win support for his cosmetic line. For 3 decades, Johnson has sponsored the Ebony Fashion Fair, the world's largest touring fashion show. When he had trouble finding cosmetics shades dark enough for black models, he tried unsuccessfully to convince Estee Lauder and Revlon to develop a product. When they said no, he created his own products. But it wasn't that easy. His line was new, untested, and black. How would he break in? After numerous proposals to department store executives, Johnson couldn't find any takers. Finally, he convinced the president of Chicago-based Marshall Fields that his cosmetics fashion fair were worth stocking. The executive purchased a small order but warned the black tycoon that his line would be yanked if it did not sell. Johnson had to produce. Once again, common sense prevailed. Using the plan that had worked before, Johnson had female employees purchase various amounts of fashion fair products for several months. Store buyers who monitored sales were excited and quick to reorder. Johnson was equally quick to repeat the maneuver as he stocked the shelves of some of America's most exclusive and acclaimed department stores. "I love to sell," Johnson states emphatically. "I sell even when there is no monetary advantage to be gained. The only advantage I have is a lifetime of experience." John Johnson possessed a quality shared by few in his time. Common sense has its rewards, and Johnson has reaped them. Showmanship. Some call him a promoter, others say he is a public relations wizard, but neither title adequately describes what he does best. Wally Amos is a salesman who uses flair, hype, and showmanship to convey his message. With the help of an aunt, he began baking as a hobby that he would maintain throughout his promotional career. As a teenager, Amos attended a New York City trade school with an apprenticeship at a local hotel as a cook. Disenchanted, he quit 6 months prior to graduation and joined the Air Force. After a 4-year stint, he returned to New York and joined the William Morris Agency, where he started in the mail room before becoming a top agent, handling such acts as Simon and Garfunkel, The Temptations, and the Supremes. Amos perfected his self-promotional skills well while passing out his chocolate chip cookies at concerts, auditions, and meetings. Friends and clients urged him to sell the treats, but he never gave the idea much thought. But in 1974, fate intervened. Amos' personal management business was on the rocks. In a period of depression, he turned to his first love and started baking cookies full time. After opening his first store on a shoestring, his funds waned and his cookie business went reeling. Amos recalled his toughest moment. As I look back, I realized I was grossly undercapitalized, but I was too naive to consider failure. With no money, I had to stir up my creative juices and promote my cookies the same way I promoted clients. Amos wrote a business plan, raised some startup capital from his show business contacts, and took a leap of faith. And a few months later, amid flowing champagne and a strolling band, valet parking, and 1,500 people, Wally Amos set his chocolate chips above all others. He called them Famous Amos Chocolate Chip Cookies. Starved for cash, he once traded a day's worth of cookies, $750, for advertising time on a local radio. He had professional models distribute cookies to passers-by in the neighboring Beverly Hills and Hollywood. I knew I had the best product. All I needed to do was to convince the public of something I already knew. In 1975, a star was born, and I was its showman. Carefully consider these four qualities. Question yourself about the characteristics you honestly possess and those in which you are deficient. Work at improving your persistence, planning, common sense, and showmanship. Master salesmanship is an art and a valuable tool for the development of self-reliance. Successful commercial and financial enterprises are managed by leaders who either knowingly or unconsciously apply the ideas described in this chapter. You too can become a recognized leader in the field of your choice by utilizing these principles: finance, production, research, and sales in your life. Self-help. There are no open doors to the temple of success. Everyone who enters must forge his own way. Grand successes wait patiently for anyone who has the fortitude and determination to seize his share of the American dream. But you must remember that it is you who creates your own opportunities, not fate, luck, or chance. Lack of opportunity is ever the excuse of the poorly directed. Every life is full of opportunity. George Bernard Shaw once said, God has given us a world that nothing but our own folly keeps from being a paradise. In other words, we live in a world that always has the potential for affluence. Life is a lesson, and every lesson, regardless of where or when it occurs, is opportunity. Every business transaction is opportunity. Where there are people, there is opportunity. Existence is the privilege of effort, and when that privilege is met, opportunities to succeed along the lines of your aptitude will come faster than you can handle them. If a slave like Frederick Douglass can elevate himself into an orator, editor, statesman, and successful businessman, then what ought the poorest black child born today, who is rich in opportunities, accomplish with his life? Just think for a moment. If the average slave who suddenly found himself free, with no food, no shelter, nor clothing, could lift his life from the guttermost to the uttermost, then what should the black American of today accomplish? A lowly beginning or humble origins are no barriers to opportunity. The ranks are full of those who miss the boat called self-help. Generally, there are two alibis for missing the mark. I'm not a genius is one. The other, opportunities do not exist today as they did in the past. Neither excuse holds. The first is beside the point. The second is altogether wrong. It's the old failure, woe is me syndrome expressed by someday my ship will come in. In truth, opportunity first takes shape in your mind. It is an expression of how you perceive yourself as well as how you perceive your environment. The achievers, the innovators, and the movers and shakers are those with the courage and the insight to say, yes, I can. There is a way, and I'll find it. They are those rare individuals who accept life with its challenges and who work to turn those challenges into successes. Opportunities abound. You are opportunity. and you must knock on the door leading to your destiny. You create opportunity as you turn your crisis and defeats into success. You must stop complaining about your unfortunate past or bad luck and realize the opportunities that exist around you. Self help is the offspring of adversity, the progeny of defeat. The spirit of self help is the root of all genuine growth in the individual. If you rely on others for help, you lose the stimulus to improve yourself, which in effect renders you comparatively helpless. Put forth the effort, and practically anything you desire is yours. When opportunity is seized, self help is simultaneously activated. The path to greatness and success is paved with self reliance. Don't wait for opportunity. Don't wait for opportunity, make it. Make it as Thomas Burrell made his when he first conceived and created Burrell Advertising. Born in Chicago in 1939, Tom Burrell was raised by his mother in a tough section on Chicago's South Side. Though he barely managed to stay out of trouble, he scored well on a scholastic aptitude test that would eventually give his life new meaning. With a newfound direction, his aim, attitude, and academic performance improved, leading him to college where he majored in English and advertising. Prior to graduation, Burrell landed a job with a Chicago ad agency, working in the mailroom for less than $50 a week. It was here that Burrell made his opportunity. Within 3 months, he advanced to copywriter, then on to various television and print campaigns. Burrell mastered his trade well, sharpening his skills with every new assignment. But when he launched his own agency, he wondered if he had made a serious mistake. It took 6 nervous months before his shaky firm secured its first account. As time wore on, Burrell pushed his fear aside and performed admirably. Today, with more than $50 million in annual billings and clients such as Coca-Cola, Sears, Procter & Gamble, and McDonald's, Burrell Advertising is the fastest growing black-owned advertising agency in the U.S. Make your opportunity as Percy Sutton made his by utilizing his many talents. It was in 1964 during the Harlem riots that Sutton quelled a hostile crowd by using a local radio talk show as a forum for peace. Impressed by his performance, the station owner offered Sutton the chance to purchase one of his New York stations, but Sutton was nearly broke. 8 years later, he organized a consortium of 33 investors, some of whom used their homes as collateral, to obtain bank loans to purchase the $2.1 million radio station. Since then, Sutton's company, Inner City Broadcasting, has diversified into a variety of fields. The parent company, which now has more than 60 stockholders, operates a cable station, New York's Apollo Theater, and a number of profitable radio stations nationwide. Make your opportunity as Alice Walker made hers. As the youngest of 8 children, Alice experienced a childhood in rural Georgia punctuated by poverty. Her parents' annual income, her father was a sharecropper, her mother a maid, never exceeded $5,000. Nevertheless, she still unearthed the secret to success by clinching a rare place in literary history. In 1983, she became the first black female novelist to win the coveted Pulitzer Prize for fiction for her masterpiece, The Color Purple. Make your opportunity as Carl Rowan made his. Carl Rowan and his family knew the kind of poverty that is thankfully rare today. He was raised in a rat-infested house in rural Tennessee that had neither a clock, electricity, running water, telephone, or radio. His family survived on black-eyed peas and navy beans. But out of this milieu emerged a black child who would go on to become a naval officer, a member of the Foreign Services during the Kennedy administration, and arguably Black America's most successful syndicated columnist. At every step along the way, he challenged mediocrity and complacency. Though racism and poverty tried desperately to put him on his knees, neither succeeded. And make your opportunity as Ron Brown, chairman of the Democratic National Committee, made his. Brown discovered the genius that slept dormant within. As a freshman at Middlebury College, he confronted the racial restrictions of an all-white fraternity. Poised, talented, and competent, he refused to offer the organization any reason to deny his acceptance, except skin color, something the fraternity was unwilling to do. 30 years later, he placed the Democratic Party leadership in the same position. The achievement of Ron Brown, as well as those mentioned above, is due, in large measure, to their ability to digest and apply the central rule of success. Don't wait for opportunity, make it. The call of the 20th century is for those who will climb into the rare air described by all who have ascended to a greater self-reliance. There is no corner of the market that is not seeking young men and women of ability who will help themselves by relying on their own splendid talents. There is some one thing that you can do better than anyone else. What is it? Search until you find your area of excellence, and then organize all of your forces and attack it with the belief that you are going to excel. Keep in mind, the man who complains he never had a chance probably hasn't the courage to take a chance. And the man who says it can't be done is busy getting out of the way of the man doing it. He who attempts the impossible has little competition. Make your opportunity as all who've embraced riches have done, by seizing it. Self-reliance is your responsibility. So many times we witness the birth of another child born into the clutches of poverty within the black community, born into a world of few resources and even less motivation. The child finds himself discriminated against at every turn. More often than I care to remember, I have personally observed this child mature into adulthood and consume the blight and decay that surrounds him, proclaiming to all, "What's the use? My obstacles are insurmountable." He mistakenly concludes that he has every right to quit, to fail, blaming his conditions on the circumstances of his birth. Too many in similar conditions have succumbed to this seductive spirit of blaming others for their troubles. They would serve their purposes much better to examine their inherited advantages revealed within this text. What they would discover is a basic keynote to success. You are accountable for what you do with your life. Are you disenchanted with the hand that life has dealt you? Then change those circumstances to some more favorable. Never give up hope. Without hope, there is only emptiness between the cry of the newborn infant and the sound of the closing casket. Understand, you will get exactly out of life what you put into it. You will reap tomorrow what you've sown today. No one knows this better than Darryl Stingley, a former star football player who was paralyzed from the waist down as a result of a ferocious hit during a football game. Though flat on his back, Stingley is conscious of the above axiom and refuses to give in to his circumstances. Here's what he says about the agony of his daily physical therapy. Naturally, the pain means there's feeling there. I've developed a philosophy about pain. I like it because it makes a man think, and thinking makes a man wise, and knowledge and wisdom are the keys to a peaceful life. Life is what you make it. Responsibility and choice are opposite sides of the same coin. Freedom of choice and responsibility for one's own actions are precious gifts. Physical drudgery is not the intention of the Creator. It is the responsibility of each of us to carve out a meaningful life in our existence as we see fit. You have the power to either subdue the earth or starve. Self-reliance is not a question of what someone can do on your behalf, but what you can do for yourself, and you can do whatever you decide to do. You don't have to work, pay taxes, have children, or even get out of bed in the morning. Millions don't. You decide to do whatever you wish because it is profitable to you, and whatever you choose to do is the best choice among the alternatives available to aid you in reaching your goals. You have the choice to succeed on the scale of those highlighted in this book, or to exist in poverty and lack if you so choose. And having made this choice, it is not the responsibility of your fellow man to serve as a never-ending caretaker. Though choice includes the right to do or not to do, it is equipped with the added requirement of responsibility. Tough words, I agree, but totally necessary if you are to experience the true riches of life. There are two keys to this principle of responsibility that you would do well to remember. Number one, the greater your lot, the greater your responsibility. The man in the biblical story who was given 5 talents to invest was answerable for the full responsibility of those 5 talents. If you acknowledge the talents given to you by the Creator, imagination, creativity, the ability to control your thoughts, and choice, then you must know that you are eventually answerable for these talents also. This statement takes into account the different levels at which people start their lives, while holding each of us accountable at the level at which we find ourselves. Notice, I did not say that it removes this requirement of responsibility, for this is one of the greatest stumbling blocks of largesse. Number 2, each day ask yourself, what can this day mean to me as a person? Upon deciding what it is that you desire, you then must become aware of how each experience fits into the meaning you seek. You are given 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, in which you are held accountable. You are free to work at your leisure or extremely hard, if you so desire. But you are accountable to life. Life is not accountable to you. As you continue your journey through the pages of this text, take with you the following pledge of responsibility. Many of America's most eminent leaders have silently taken this oath. Grab the full message of Marcus Garvey, who reminded the masses of their task in the midst of poverty and rampant oppression. Black men, you were once great, you shall be great again. Lose not courage or faith. Go forward. I, too, encourage you to be bold enough to step out on your own through individual initiative, independence, and greater self-reliance. Your destiny is in your hands. Do you wish to be self-reliant? Then let me see it in your actions. If I see that all-consuming, all-absorbing fight to succeed, braced by a dominant desire to be self-reliant, I will know that you have subscribed to the guidelines of success proposed by inspirational writer Danny Cox, who stated his declaration of personal responsibility. I currently possess everything I've truly wanted and deserved. This is based on what I have given to society to date. My possessions, my savings, and my lifestyle are an exact mirror of me, my efforts, and my contribution to society. What I have given, I have received. If I am unhappy with what I have received, it is because, as of this date, I have not paid the required price. I have lingered too long in the quibbling stage. I fully understand that time becomes a burden to me only when it is empty. The past is mine, and at this very moment I am purchasing another 24 hours of it. The future changes quickly into the past, at a control point called the present moment. I not only truly live in this point, but have full responsibility for the highest and best use of the irreplaceable now. I accept full responsibility for both the successes and failures in my life. If I am not what I desire to be at this point, what I am is my compromise. I choose no longer to compromise with my undeveloped potential. I am the sum total of the choices I have made, and I continue to choose daily. What I now put under close scrutiny is the value of each upcoming choice. Therein lies the quality of my future lifestyle. Will my future belong to the old me or the new me? That answer depends on my attitude toward personal growth at this very moment. What time is left is all that counts, and this remaining time is my responsibility. With a newfound maturity, I accept full responsibility for how great I can become at that which is most important to me. I am self-reliant.